My name is Margaret. I'm 63 years old, retired, and have lived in the same neighborhood for nearly 25 years. It's a quiet street, full of families, the kind of place where everyone waves to each other even if they don't really know your name. Our kids grew up here, moved out, and started lives of their own. These days, it's just me and my husband, Benjamin. We spend a lot of evenings sitting on the porch, drinking tea, knitting, or listening to the radio. It's simple, but I like it that way. That's why I still can't believe what happened last year. The new neighbor. Across the street, a house had been empty for months after the previous owner moved to Florida. One spring afternoon, a sleek black BMW pulled up in the driveway. Out stepped a young man in his 20s. He wore designer sunglasses, a crisp jacket, and carried himself with the confidence of someone much older. His name was Quinn. He introduced himself a few days later, shaking Benjamin's hand firmly and giving me a polite smile. He said he worked in entertainment, though the details went over my head. He seemed successful, maybe even a little flashy, but he was sweet and well-mannered. Benjamin liked him instantly. Soon enough, we'd wave to Quinn whenever he left for the day. He always waved back. The girlfriend. A couple of weeks later, I started noticing a young blonde woman visiting his house. She drove a little white convertible and always dressed as though she was going to a nightclub. She had her own key to his house, so I assumed she was his girlfriend. At first it seemed normal, but then I realized she usually came over when Quinn wasn't home. She'd go inside, stay an hour or two, and then leave before he returned. It happened once, then twice, then practically every week. I tried not to overthink it. I'm old-fashioned, and I don't pretend to understand how young people date nowadays. But something about her unsettled me. The argument. One Saturday afternoon, I was outside pruning roses when I heard raised voices across the street. Quinn and the blonde were standing in his driveway, locked in a shouting match. She threw her hands up, her voice sharp enough that I caught phrases like, "Don't ignore me," and "I deserve more." Quinn looked exhausted, rubbing his forehead. Finally, she stormed off, slammed her car door, and screeched down the street. I thought maybe that was the end of it, but it wasn't. Escalation. Despite the fight, her car kept showing up, sometimes when Quinn wasn't home, sometimes in the middle of the night. One evening, I noticed her lights flick on inside while Quinn was still across town. She stayed for hours. When Quinn came back, there was more yelling, this time behind closed doors. Benjamin told me to stop prying, that it wasn't our business. He was right, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The night of the sirens. Then came the night everything exploded. It was past midnight when we woke to the sound of sirens. Red and blue lights flashed through our bedroom window. We hurried outside and saw Quinn's house swarming with police. An ambulance was parked at the curb. On a stretcher, Quinn was wheeled out. His shirt was soaked with blood, his face pale. Behind him, officers escorted the blonde woman in handcuffs. Her face was blank, no anger, no fear, just an eerie calm. I clutched Benjamin's arm, horrified. The truth. A week later, Quinn returned from the hospital, pale but alive. Out of respect, we waited a few days before knocking on his door to check on him. He welcomed us inside, grateful for company. That's when he told us everything. The girl's name was Ellie. They had dated casually at first, but she quickly became demanding. Jewelry, fancy dinners, expensive vacations. When Quinn hesitated, she grew possessive, manipulative. She had stolen his spare key and secretly made a copy. She'd been entering his home without permission, going through his belongings, even planting hidden cameras in his bedroom. She tracked my location through my phone, Quinn admitted, voice shaking. Every time she showed up when I wasn't home, she already knew where I was. The argument I'd seen in the driveway had been his attempt to break up with her. He said she refused, insisting she was the only one who truly cared about him. The night of the sirens, Ellie had entered his house with a knife. Quinn barely survived the attack. Aftermath. He told us the doctors said he was less than an inch away from dying. His voice cracked as he said it. We tried to console him, but he kept repeating, "I should have known better. I should have been more careful." Within weeks, Quinn moved out. He told us he didn't feel safe anymore. He feared Ellie's friends might know where he lived. We never saw him again. Even now, when I sit on my porch, I sometimes look at that empty house across the street and wonder where he ended up. I pray he's okay. And I pray I never again see a smile like Ellie's, blank and calm, as she was led away in handcuffs.